Moscow's mayor says one of the largest Ukrainian drone attacks on the city has been prevented, with at least 11 drones intercepted and destroyed. Russia also insists that they will repel Ukrainian forces from the Kursk region. The Russian military is now building temporary bridges across a key river in that region. CNN's Claire Sebastian live from London this hour. Good to see you. Now, tell us more about this Ukrainian drone strike on Moscow overnight, and the size of the attack seems to be quite relevant.
Yeah, it's been a pretty large one. These are, as you know, John, extremely regular. We see Ukraine quite often targeting across the border with drones, multiple regions, but hitting the Moscow region particularly hard this time. 11 drones, the Russian Ministry of Defense say, were shot down over the Moscow region out of a total of 45, targeting multiple regions. And the mayor of Moscow is calling it one of the biggest drone attacks on the city ever. Now, we don't know what the targets were, but we do know that when you see these drone attacks from Ukraine, usually it's a mixture, right, of targeting something specific like a military base or installation, an energy facility of some sort. Over the weekend, for example, we saw a major fire break out in an oil depot in the Rostov region due to a drone strike. And then on the flip side, there's also this sense of destabilization, right, of trying to cut through the propaganda facade and get the message across to the Russian people that they are in fact at war. And that propaganda machine is really in full swing at the moment now, more than 2 weeks into the Ukrainian incursion in Kursk, because the Russian media, and taking their cue from the Russian authorities, really attempt to prove to the people that this is an isolated incident and a terror attack. And look, this is what you're seeing from the Ukrainian military. They are also doing their own messaging, really trying to show that they have the initiative in the Kursk region and are hitting very hard back at Russia's resistance, which really 2 weeks in is only really starting to take shape. John?
It does seem that the Ukrainians have exposed, a weak point, to say the least, in the Russian military, and this top-down chain of command. But what has been the Russian response to these attacks? I mean, are they sending more troops in? Are they, what's the latest from there?
Yeah, so in terms of the military response, initially we saw a sort of motley selection of different groupings. We've seen reports of, elements of the Black Sea Fleet come in. The Ukrainians have talked of troops coming in from the likes of Kharkiv and Zaporizhia. Lithuania even suggested they were bringing troops in from the Baltic enclave of Kaliningrad. I think the sense, certainly from talking to experts, that I get is the resistance is now taking greater shape. We may start to see a more coordinated response. But in terms of President Putin and how he's been dealing with this, we see this sort of haphazard crisis management playbook that we've seen play out in the past. I want to show you an interesting split screen, because we've seen him in southern Russia in the last couple of days. And on Tuesday, you see on the left of your screen in Vladikavkaz in the Caucasus, meeting with the Russian people, greeting them, and compare that to what's on the right in Dagestan just a few days after Prigozhin's aborted mutiny. These are relatively unusual scenes for the president, but really an attempt to sort of reassert his popularity. And of course, he continues to claim, and did so somewhat strangely on a visit to Beslan for the 20th anniversary of that terror attack. He continues to claim that what's happening in Kursk is in fact a terror attack. Take a listen.
As for those opponents and enemies of ours that I mentioned, they continue this work of trying to destabilize our country. This is obvious. And since we fought terrorists, today we have to fight those who commit crimes in the Kursk region, in Donbass, and Novorossiya.
So it's pretty clear what he's trying to do there, trying to project the image as well of business as usual. Putin's set to meet with the Chinese premier in Moscow today, his third big international meeting since the incursion into Kursk, really trying to show that they have this under control.